I was alone with the wind. Buried to my neck in the desert crust of Aetheris 9, I could feel time slipping past like static in my ears. The twin suns had baked the world to ash, and I was its next offering. My lips were cracked, my skin blistered. I had no tears left, no voice, no name that mattered, except, ... Mine still did. I am Ivera Tal, biocartographer, 2nd class. Once stationed aboard the orbiting research citadel Thornvale Ascendancy. That title used to mean something. It opened doors, now it meant nothing. Not when you're left behind like a broken drone. I was part of Expedition Thetaphor, a scientific dive into the unmarked crimson zone of Aetheris 9, a planet banned by the Coalition due to high irregularities in atmospheric cognition. That's diplomatic code for, don't touch it, it thinks back. I volunteered, not out of bravery, but out of desperation. A chance to prove I was more than what I'd been told. Someone had to chart the folds in space. This world seemed to hum with what we found. Wasn't space-time anomalies, it was architecture. Structures carved not by tools, but thought. Halls without doors, stairs that climbed in loops. Geometry that revised itself when unobserved. The deeper we went, the less our instruments functioned. Memory flickered. Identity blurred. Then came Project Oralisa. Private agenda hidden beneath our exploration. Not mine, not even our commanders. Smuggled orders, secret recipients. They brought the seed module, a device not sanctioned by the Council or any sane engineer. Its purpose, to activate whatever lay dormant beneath the planet's crust. The moment it hummed alive, our team changed. Literally, ... I watched Ferran Dalixauer propulsion tech fall to his knees and whisper to the walls. He said something was answering, that he'd heard it call his name in his mother's voice. His mouth bled, his eyes went black. Then he smiled, and never stood up again. One by one, the others followed. I tried to shut it down, tried to stop the seed from pulsing, but someone had reprogrammed the override. That someone was Severone. She was my partner. My rival, my sometimes lover. Her betrayal burned hotter than the sun above me now. She told me I was too curious, too emotional, that I was too alive for what came next. She kissed my forehead before dragging me into the storm and pressing the emergency capsule's ignition. You'll make a beautiful fossil, she said, smiling, then, ... Nothing but sand, collapse, silence. And so I laid there, buried by the betrayal of the one person who once swore she'd die with me if it ever came to that. I stopped trying to escape after the second night. My neural tether was dead. My cranial cache corrupted. Drones, disabled. Even my biometric skin couldn't keep the heat from liquefying my hope. I tilted my head back, staring at the stars I'd never touch again. Then I heard a voice. Not in my mind, not the planet whispering a real one, human, alive. I told you someone would be here, it said gravelly amused. My eyes flicked toward the sound. A figure leaned over me, cloaked in cobalt fiber mesh, dust swirling around his boots. His face was hidden behind a visor, but I could feel his gaze slicing through me. He knelt. His gloved hand brushed sand away from my neck. You're not from the Dominion, he said. No, I whispered. Are you? He chuckled. Never was, never wanted to be. His name, he told me later, was All Invade, a salvager, technically, a relic thief, probably. But the way he moved efficient, deliberate. I suspected there was more to him. Maybe exhalatory, maybe worse. He didn't ask questions, just scanned my vitals, and initiated a nanostim pack from his belt. You're lucky I picked up a spike in neural static, he said. Almost ignored it. I coughed. Why didn't you? He hesitated. Because, ... you hummed. What? The planet, it sings. You were in harmony with it. That's rare. He didn't dig further. He didn't need to. He knew I wasn't. Just a survivor. I was a catalyst. And he wasn't here for rescue. He was here for whatever the seed had awakened. I passed out as he began unearthing me. But just before sleep took me, I thought I saw something in the sky like a ship cloaked in light, watching us, watching me. I woke to motion, the kind that rocks your bones like a forgotten lullaby, inside a rover dust, caked armor-plated, and older than any model I'd seen. I lay half-wrapped in thermofoil. IVs in my arm, and a small needle rhythmically pumping neural calibrators into the base of my neck. The cabin smelled of ozone, burnt metal, and some kind of synth-coffee. The Manilon Vey drove, with one gloved hand, while his other fiddled with a jagged humming shard of obsidian-like tech. It pulsed as if alive, emitting strange fractal symbols into the air. "You were out for 2 hours," he said without turning. "Longer, and you'd have slipped past the soft death threshold." I wanted to speak, but my throat still tasted like rust. He handed me a canteen. I drank greedily. "Where are we going?" I asked, voice gravel-thin. He tapped the console. A holograph of shifting terrain bloomed, a red-veined region surrounded by magnetic chaos. At its center, a crater. Not just a piton impact scar large enough to swallow a city. "The vault," he replied. "What your people were looking for, it's already awake, and now it's bleeding through." I sat up. Pain shot through my back like a lightning fork. "You know about the seed?" I asked. He looked at me, then slow, deliberate, visor reflecting my face like a broken mirror. "I know what it's not. It's not a transmitter, not a weapon. It's a wound, and whatever cut this planet left something behind." I shivered despite the heat. That made sense in a way I hated before I could press him. Alarms flashed. Across the dash, a blur of motion appeared in the rear holofeed, for kinetic bike, sleek, bone white, silent. "Who are they?" I asked. He grimaced. "They call themselves the Violine Accord. Ghost tech mercs. They harvest memory. Probably tracked your neuroprint when I pulled you. You said I hummed. You still are." The rover jolted as he turned sharply, skimming over a dune that collapsed behind us. Plasma fire scorched the ground inches from our wheels. The Accord riders didn't shout or signal. They just accelerated like predators chasing wounded prey. Orlan handed me a small sphere. "Pulse this if they catch up. Don't drop it. It doesn't kill, it erases." I clenched the sphere in my palm. "You expect me to fight?" I asked. "I expect you to decide whether what's inside you is worth saving." The sky darkened unnaturally as we descended into the crater's edge. Static filled the air. My vision began to blur like my own memories were skipping. And then, through the haze, I saw the spire. It rose like a rib from the center of the wound, miles high. Blacker than void, surrounded by concentric rings of floating debris, rocks, bones, machine fragments, all orbiting as if caught in a silent, reverent prayer. My breath caught. "I saw that," I whispered, in my dreams. Before we ever landed, Orlan nodded, jaw clenched. "The spire of Valathra," he said. "A compression of thought, time, and intent. Built by something that never needed hands. It's calling to you." "Why me?" I asked. He looked at me then, and I saw real hesitation. "Because someone put a key inside you." I froze. "Who?" "Only one person ever accessed the seed interface. Left a tether inside its harmonic shell, a genetic marker, tied to emotion. That person was your partner." My chest caved in at the name I refused to speak. "Sevra," I said. "She used me as a conduit." Orlan nodded. "Your pulse matches. The activation code." Everything cracked, then. The betrayal I thought I'd processed turned to wildfire. She hadn't left me behind to die. She'd buried me to activate something larger, using my grief, my memory, me as a fuse. But why? Before the answer could surface, the Accord caught up. A blast ripped the rear wheel off the rover. Orlan pulled the brake hard, flipped the vehicle in a controlled roll, and yanked me out as we skidded into the sand. "Run," he shouted. "Get to the obsidian ring. It's the only place they won't follow." I didn't hesitate. My legs burned as I sprinted, dodging between glass-like shards sticking from the ground. The air shimmered. Reality bent. Then I crossed the ring. Silence. Pure, terrible silence. Behind me, the Accord riders halted. Their engines choked. One raised his weapon, then collapsed into dust, his body imploding like ash under pressure. Orlan staggered in after me, breathing hard. The ring protects the spire. It rejects the artificial. We stood in the center of something ancient, not a ruin, not a monument, but a message. As the wind died, I stepped forward, hand brushing a stone that pulsed at my touch. Symbols lit up the air, orbiting me like stars. I wasn't just a key, I was part of the lock. Inside the ring, sound died, not absence absorption. Even my own breath felt devoured by the air. Orlan and I stood on cracked slate, blackened from millennia of heat and pressure. Beneath a structure that should not have been possible. The spire of Velathra loomed above, pulsing like a living being, flesh made of gravity and memory. I stepped forward. With every movement, the ground responded, shifting textures beneath my boots. Like the world was deciding what path I should take. Stayed back. His visor now hung around his neck, revealing sharp features scarred by time, but more alive than I'd expected. He looked afraid. "You don't hear it?" I asked. He shook his head. "Not the way you do. What do you hear? A warning." I pressed my hand against a low obelisk pulsing with the same symbols that once infected our research stations. They spun faster now, no longer alien dash, just ... waiting. The stone responded to my pulse. A whisper uncoiled in my mind, not sound. Not code. Return us. The glyphs, rearranged mid-air. Forming a sequence one I recognized from the corrupted data Severa encoded before she turned. But this version wasn't broken, it was a map. I turned. To Orlan, she used me to find this place, but she didn't want to enter it. She couldn't, he said. The spire requires organic symmetry emotion encoded in biology. She cut too much of hers away when she bonded with the seed. She killed everyone to get here. He shook his head. Not killed, changed. The wind shifted, no space shifted. Behind us, the air tore in a slow spiral. Something stepped through, a shape with Severa Roan's voice, but not her body. Her face flickered like a bad connection. One moment familiar, the next overlaid with impossible geometry, eyes that didn't stay in one place, skin that pulsed. Like circuitry stitched to bone, her presence made my teeth ache. "Ivera Tal," she said. Her voice was calm, controlled. Beneath it, I heard pain. "Severa," I whispered. "No longer," she replied. "I am Kerith Vale now." The interface completed. "You should not be here." I took a step forward. "You left me in the sand to die. You used me. I preserved you," she said. "You were the only one uncorrupted. You were clean enough to open it. You murdered Ferrin. The others, they ascended," she snapped, her voice fracturing into layered echoes. "We had to lose the skin of what we were to become, what was necessary." The seed didn't lie. The spire was never a tomb, it's an ark, a device built to restore equilibrium to broken timelines. I glanced back at Orlan, his eyes locked on Kerith's silhouette, calculating. "And you're its pilot now?" I asked. She tilted her head. "No, I am its warning." The spire behind us lit like a storm, 1,000 lights, cascading upward. Then I felt it, deep in my chest, something alive, beneath the structure. It stirred like a sleeping god. "They put it here," Kerith whispered, voice now tinged with reverence. "The Cintari didn't die, they divided. Sent their minds across systems, looking for balance. You're one of the receivers." I staggered. "I don't want any part of this." "You were born into it," she said. "That's why I loved you. You still feel the truth before logic can kill it." And suddenly, her voice wasn't Kerith Vale's, it was Severus, warm, human. That crack, just a sliver of her left, nearly shattered me. "I should kill you," I said. "Right now, you should," she replied. "But if you do, you'll never reach the vault beneath the core. You'll never see what they left for you." Orlan raised his rifle. "We don't need her," but I held out my hand. "Don't." "Why?" "Because she's not lying." Kerith. Severa, whatever she was now, turned and walked toward the base of the spire. A stairway unfolded beneath her footsteps, grown from blacklight and memory. I followed. Not because I trusted her, but because part of me wanted to understand. Orlan came, too, reluctantly. Inside, Time no longer made sense. Every step echoed with a memory, not mine. Children playing with fire in a glass forest. Stars falling upward into oceans of thought. Machines crying at their creators' graves. The deeper we went, the more the spire responded to me. Finally, we reached the vault. It wasn't mechanical. It was a chrysalis. And inside, it trapped in threads of living code, was a copy of me. Not a clone, not a backup. It was Ivera Tal, pulled from another version of existence. Unbroken, unbetrayed. unburied.cevra-kari spoke one final time. The Cintari learned the truth, too late. We fracture ourselves trying to avoid pain. But you are the junction. You must choose merge with what you could have been, or remain who you are. Orlan stepped beside me, silent, waiting. I don't understand, I said. You will, she said. When you see what your other self remembers. The chrysalis opened . And I touched ... myself, the world shattered. Time uncoiled. I wasn't standing any more. I was floating, sinking, dissolving inside the mind of someone I knew better than anyone else. Me, but not quite. She had never met. Orlan had never trusted Severa. She never joined the expedition. In her version of the story, the warning came earlier, intercepted signal, a quiet message disguised as a star map. She had listened. She had stayed away. And yet, here we were. Two echoes of one soul, brought together by a spire that remembered every possibility. Memories flooded in, not like dreams or visions, but sensations. She had grown up farther north, trained under a different mentor, kissed someone else under the copper sky of Kale. Her scars were in different places, but, at the core, she was still Ivera Tal. The difference: she had survived. You're not a hallucination, I said aloud. You're a branch. No, she said. I said, from inside the chrysalis. I'm a convergence point. We were always meant to merge. It's the only way forward. Stepped into view behind me, his eyes narrowed, unsure whether to pull me away or destroy the cocoon outright. I raised a hand to stop him. What happens if I choose not to merge? I asked. My other self replied, voice gentle but firm. Then, the spire closes. The cycle resets. Another version of us begins again. Buried, hunted, abandoned. The loop continues. I glanced at Severa Tal, who stood silently beside the memory glyphs, watching like a priest awaiting prophecy. The last threads of her humanity flickered faintly, burning slow. She knew this would happen, I said. This whole time, that I'd be brought here. She needed you here, Kerith said, because you still feel love, still ache. That's the only frequency the spire understands. The Cintari couldn't process regret. They erased pain. And in doing so, they erased meaning. You carry what they lost. I turned back to the chrysalis. My reflection blinked just a second. Out of sync. A ghost of what could have been. I don't want to forget, I whispered. You won't, my other self said. You'll remember both paths. All of it. That's how we heal the break. I touched the edge of the chrysalis. It pulsed soft, warm, alive. The merge wasn't painful. It was terrifying in its peace, like returning home to a house you barely remembered building. A moment passed, then the spire spoke, not in words, but in light, in gravity, in memory. Balance restored. New continuity authorized. The black geometry around us began folding in on itself. Not collapsing, but unfolding, revealing an inner shape hidden by dimensional armor. A sphere, smooth, spinning. Inside it. Stars, cities, worlds, versions of reality. Shaped by decisions never made. Kerith dropped to her knees, her body convulsing with fragmented pulses. It's happening, she whispered. The convergence. I looked at her, really, and for the first time, I didn't see a monster. I saw someone who had tried to rewrite fate, and lost herself in the process. I knelt. I forgive you, I said. She shook her head. I don't deserve that. No, you don't. But you're still going to get it. A long silence passed, then she smiled faintly. Tragically. I can Let go now, she said. Her form dissolved into ribbons of blue fire. A memory finally freed. Behind me, Orlan placed a hand on my shoulder. What now? I turned to him, heart steady. The spire is resetting the breach. Stitching timelines, we can either leave or stay and guide the new continuity. His gaze met mine. You mean start over? I nodded. Not as Ivera Tal, I added. Not as fugitives or survivors, as architects. He hesitated. I'm not a builder, no, I said. But you never stopped chasing broken things. That counts. He laughed a real sound, maybe the first since I met him. I go where the stars ache, he said. Together, we stepped into the heart of the sphere. The structure responded, not with grandeur, but with choice. Panels emerged, each inscribed with glyphs we hadn't seen before, not Cintari, not coalition. Something new, born from the union of possibility and pain. One read, for those who still feel. Another, begin again, with memory intact. I touched the second. The spire began to dissolve. Reality folded inward, not as collapse, but as reboot, a kiss of wind, the smell of rain, a world reloading from the seed of a single decision. I woke to sky.blue.real, no longer buried, Orlan beside me, asleep in the grass, and in the distance figures, new explorers, drawn by the resonance of something never meant to be forgotten. My name is Ivera Tal. I died once, buried to my neck in the sand, but now, I build futures, and when people ask me where it all began, I don't tell them about pain. I tell them about the moment I heard a voice, a human one,